Welcome to episode 217 of the Daniel Yoris podcast with today's guest, Dal Sekhon. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Joined here today by Dal. Dal, what is the secret? I know there's one. There has to be one. What is the secret to losing 120 pounds? Don't tell me consistency. Don't say it. Don't say the basics. There's got to be a secret. Give me something.
The basics plus consistency. No, there I didn't know. Well, of course that's part of the formula, right? But I think a larger part is dealing with your what's going on in your mind.
Damn, we're going to get deep real fast here. Okay.
Yeah.
There was an amazing quote that I heard once, and it was like, if you don't deal with the stuff that's going on in your head and in your heart, nothing else is going to matter. Like, and you can relate that to a lot of other things, but fitness for sure, right?
Well, yeah, because I can tell you from experience, over 2 decades worth actually of yo-yo dieting. And, I'm not going to say that like these extreme programs didn't work. They did. But they work short term. And once I got to my goal weight, whatever it was, I'd always revert back to old patterns. And then the cycle just continued. And sometimes the cycle was starting, stopping, and never actually completing. And, it really wasn't until I dealt with my kind of inner struggles, demons, if you want to call them, that I actually was able to finally succeed, just inside and out, right? So my transformation is definitely physical, but it's more internal, I'd say. So there's the secret.
I think that's a very good foreshadowing to like the rest of this of how this conversation will go, right? But before we get into it, we'll go through your whole story and kind of the ups and downs and what worked and what didn't work and how you arrived at where you are now and all the lessons learned along the way. But quickly, just introduce yourself, like let people know who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay, well, I'm Dal, like you already mentioned, and I am now also a nutrition coach. So having gone through my journey, I decided to pursue this with some persuasion and encouragement from my coach, Andrew, as you know who that is. And I was just compelled to do this. It spoke to me and I'm very passionate about it. I know lots of coaches say that, but I really am. And, I'm a mom as well. So I have 2 kids. I don't like to define myself anymore. I'm just Dal doing the things that I love and honestly trying to live life to the fullest. So after 40 plus years.
I think we are on the brink of getting extremely philosophical in this conversation if we don't keep it close to nutrition. But yes, great introduction, and thank you. And shout out to Andrew Coates, as always. He's probably got the most shout outs ever on this podcast, but he's extremely critical to this podcast and to many of our lives in fitness and stuff as well. 2 decades worth. What was Dal doing 20 years ago?
Oh, wow. 20 plus years ago. I'd say it probably started sooner. I think it probably started in high school, just wasn't aware of it because I remember eating very minimally, but I was obviously very active and in sports and stuff like that. Just never really learned about nutrition. I mean, obviously there's nutrition now in schools, but didn't learn about nutrition, didn't know anything about it. And so once I was done high school, went to university, that's where it starts, right? Like the eating, not moving as much, just a whole different lifestyle. And I started gaining the weight slowly. And that's when I started doing different extreme methods, whether it was exercise, whether it was just restricting, like in terms of trying to eat quote unquote clean, not even knowing how many calories I was eating. Like I remember some of the meals and I think I was like under eating, not really fueling myself either. And that was a constant cycle. And then I've been on Weight Watchers. We can talk about that a little bit because that actually plays a part in this current journey of mine as well. And that didn't teach me anything. And this is just my personal experience and my opinion. And I've also had clients who have been on Weight Watchers as well. And it really created a bad relationship with food. and also constantly doing these diets, just yo-yo dieting this entire time, it just reinforced and made things worse. So it created even a more of a negative relationship with food. I still didn't understand the foundation of like nutrition in general and calories, any of that. Um, and the whole time, though, obviously, I was dealing with my own struggles, internal struggles, things that I never wanted to face or never thought of. And as I got older, even if I did, I just suppressed them because I did not want to look in the mirror. I did not want to face any of that. And whatever the reasons are, for me, it was, cultural conditioning or fear of the unknown or the fear of making a certain decision or going a certain path, whether it was cultural conditioning, societal conditioning, ingrained beliefs. There's just so many reasons. But throughout that time, there was always a reason, right? Whereas when I finally decided to make the shift, I learned early on that I did have to take responsibility and accountability for my actions, and I had to choose to change. I mean, it didn't happen right away, but eventually it did come to that kind of realization. Whereas prior to that, it was always blame, external blame.
I think
So,
that's a really important thing to highlight here. And this is something that is, I mean, I've never been in that situation, but personally, but it seems like, and people that I know who have been and been through it kind of, say, yeah, like that sums up how it feels. It's not necessarily someone's fault that you're in the situation that you're in, but it is your responsibility to get yourself out of it, right? No one else is going to do it for you. No one else can eat the food, do the therapy, do the, whatever stuff, or not eat the food or exercise, do the things that you need to do to make yourself and make your life better. It doesn't necessarily need to be your fault. And those two things are, or it's not necessarily your fault rather. And those two things are separate. And the way that I view it as an optimist is empowering, because if you have the ability to change it, then that's a really good thing, because then you can get out of it. If you don't have the ability to change it, well, like, then you're doomed. And then what are you going to do? Then you have no hope. There's nothing that's going to ever get you out of that situation. But thankfully, in most cases, there are things that you can do, but it's not until that you realize that, and then two, start to take action and learn and make plenty of mistakes along the way, that things are going to start to move, right?
Yeah, and so much of it, like you said, it's very empowering, and the power of choice, like knowing you have that kind of ability to choose, because I feel like we take that away from ourselves when we do place that external blame or try to find reasons not to do the things that we need to do. At the same time, obviously, there are coping mechanisms as well, right? Like self-protection. If you're not wanting to face those things or, address any of that at all, well, then what are we doing to cope with that, right? And it's hard, right? All of it's hard. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because it's going to be so difficult. And just taking comfort in the fact that, like, if you don't try or if you don't choose to take that step, that you won't even know. So why not? Like, give it a shot. What do you have to lose? Right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But definitely it's very empowering. And I realize that now. And so, okay, fine. Maybe this is delving a little bit into psychology stuff. I don't know, but this is what I've learned, right? This is based on my experience, but whatever happened, right? Like, whatever we went through, whether it's childhood trauma, the experiences, those ingrained beliefs, your culture, and what you were kind of conditioned to believe, any of that, at the end of the day, that's not, like, it's not written in stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, it was accepting it happened, it's done. And now moving forward, how can I move forward from this point on? Right. It's not to say that, like, I'm not going to struggle again, or I haven't struggled in these past 3 years. I definitely have. It's just, I can manage better now, and I manage more, just efficiently. I come out of things a lot quicker, and there's the self-awareness that wasn't there before. So the power to choose, like if we can really internalize that and come to a point where it's like, we do have choice, and sometimes we may be in situations where it doesn't feel like we do, and we falter, quote unquote, I'm using quotes. That's okay. It's going to happen. We're humans. It's life, right? So
It would
yeah.
actually be abnormal to never falter again and to never
Yeah.
slip and to never have another bad day. And, we wouldn't wish for any of these things, but they're going to happen. And the range of bad things is very large, right? It could just be like, hey, I, had a little bit, had an extra cookie last night that I didn't plan on it, to, some sort of, knock on wood, dramatic accident, like any number of things that could happen that are bad. They're going to, like, make your life difficult. But
Yeah, totally.
you learn new skills and new things to continue to cope and to deal and to heal from those things, and to
Yes.
move forward with your life and make your life better. And so we need to talk about the entire spectrum,
Right.
but little things, even with your own psychology, your own experiences, your own relationship with food and nutrition, and your body and your body image, you will gain new tools just to continue to deal with these. And we all, like every fitness person you follow, everyone struggles with these things to various degrees, and we just continue to build resilience and build tools to deal with our own stuff, and try and give it back. And everyone's going to have their own ways of things that work and things that don't work, and there's no
Yep.
kind of blanket statement, which is something that we'll probably get into a little bit later, of like, there's no one size fits all, clearly, otherwise we would have all figured it out by now and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But
Yep.
you've got to kind of go through it and find the tools and strategies and tactics that really work for you, right?
Yeah, and that means, like, okay, so we always, and I use this phrase a lot, like trust the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw this meme, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but like it was, um, does the process know you're trusting it? So the process, what is the process, right? And I think that's huge. And the process, I mean, it can vary a huge like the spectrum, right? From healing, dealing with your inner struggles, but and then on the other side is also, like you said, like having those tools, learning those skills. How do you do that? Well, you have to go through it. You can't, like that's why extreme diets or any of these things, they don't work because they don't teach you anything. Right? They don't teach you how to eat, why you're eating. Does it fit your life? And that's a huge thing for me, is like, just do what works within the parameters of your life, because that's what I did. And all of our lives are different. We all have unique circumstances. We come from different cultures. That alone is a huge variable that I feel like is neglected and not taken into account. Right.
Yep.
Just coming from the Indian culture, there's so many aspects of it that a lot of people wouldn't understand, right? Some people live in extended families. And so, yeah, it's just the skills, the tools, and how do you, and what do you gain from that? Confidence, like a sense of confidence that comes from the inside, the ability to, like knowing that you have the capability or the ability to do these things and to thrive in situations that you once feared, like going to a restaurant or going to a birthday party or whatever. How can you do that? Well, you can pull, like we use this term all the time, but you pull from different toolboxes, right? Like, what's going to work for me? What strategy is going to work for me? We can get a little bit technical. Oh, is calorie cycling going to work for me this week? Like, should I employ that? So there's a lot of things. And unless you go through the process, the confidence isn't going to be there. And without the confidence, you're likely to not succeed, right?
Yeah, agreed.
For long term.
Agreed. I'm going to play devil's advocate just for the sake of conversation a little bit here. Not even really the opposite, but there's a concept of, it sounds like, to have different tools and different strategies and different things that we can employ and pull out at times that are necessary or through different seasons of life. Your nutrition strategy is going to be different when you're in university, when you're, start working, when you have kids, when you have, go through different stages of life. Things are just going to be different in your nutrition strategy. And that's, fine and normal. And the things that work when you're 20 might not work when you're 40, and so on. It's really nice to think about this flexibility of, oh, on this week, I know that I've got this thing to do. And so I can manipulate what I'm doing to suit that week's schedule.
Right.
And so as a concept, we kind of have to learn the rules of the game before we learn how to break them and how to break them without failing type of thing.
Love that. Yeah.
Do you think that there are things that you learned and picked up along the way, maybe even unconsciously, through some of these extreme diets or programs like Weight Watchers or other things where it's like, okay, the entirety of this system wasn't great and didn't work for me, but there was like that one little thing, and I'm going to take that one, I'm going to put it in my back pocket. It might be useful later. And as you're learning, you kind of learn some of these rules a little bit. And then as you grow, you learn how to break them and make them your own. Does that,
yeah.
Are there things that you think that you took away from some of these things? Like, it wasn't all bad. I mean, you got here, so you figured it out eventually, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So we can even start talk about the whole Weight Watchers thing. Gotta think about that one. But initially, like when I've done the programs multiple times,
give a quick rundown just of how Weight Watchers works. I'm a little bit familiar with it, but just in case anyone's not.
Okay, it's been a few years, but I think the concept is the same. So they don't track calories; they assign points to food. There's also quote unquote free foods. Things like Greek yogurt, protein, like chicken breast, I believe eggs, egg whites, things like that. They're considered free. But there is a caveat. I mean, they do specify like eat them in serving sizes, right? But that's not how it usually works out because people don't understand that. So if you're allotted, say, the normal calorie or point range is probably about 21 to 23 points, right? And the problem with that is though, if a donut, for example, is 10 points, that's half your points for the day. So now you eat that donut. And then if you're more prone to eating processed foods, like pantry type foods or highly palatable foods, so like some chips or crackers, say, or even like full fat cheese, well, now you're going to like just go through all of those points. Now what? Now you're starving all day, right? So you feel, so you're restricted. You're essentially, and you're starving. However, if you're having some things like sauces and you're using that to complement your free foods like chicken, Greek yogurt, etc., you can make it work. But you still don't have an idea of how many calories you're eating. So you eat that donut. Well, if you were to like add that to a calorie tracker, that donut's only 200 points. So if you have an allotment of 200 calories, if you have an allotment of 1,500 calories, that takes up a tiny fraction of your day. Compared to if you're looking at the point system, that's like half your day, right? Like half your allotment. And so if you're just doing it based on those points and you don't understand all of this nuance that now I understand, it all makes sense. And so when I first started this journey, I still did Weight Watchers again. That's what I was going to turn to because that's all I knew that quote unquote worked. And yes, I did lose the weight. And I've talked about this before, and I don't want this being taken out of context. I was eating a lot less, and I realized I could be eating more and still losing weight. So essentially, like my calorie deficit didn't have to be so large, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I was so hungry. Like it was hard that first little while, that first 6 months, 50 pounds was hard because I was starving. And so because of that, I found myself constantly yo-yoing in and out, like throwing myself out of that deficit as well.
I see. So let me try and get this clear in my head then.
Okay.
The way that it works a little bit is, I mean, you're tracking points instead of calories, which points are like a made up thing that they made, but the points are probably loosely associated with calories. Like a donut is higher calories on average than a piece of toast. But if a donut is given 10 points and a piece of toast is given 1 point, like a donut is not 100 10 times the amount of calories kind of thing. So the points are not really equated to calories, which gives you a false sense of like, it's almost like it's almost in the right direction. Like it's good to have an understanding that like, okay, a food like a donut, it can fit as long as you eat little enough of it, but it's not that much, right? It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not that hard to fit it in, kind of thing. So it's almost close, but not close enough, and to a negative degree, because you can probably fit that donut in a little bit better. Not that you should be trying to eat as many donuts as you
Yeah.
can, just in general,
No.
for performance and for health and all other reasons. But it probably gives you a false sense of like the caloric value, or just the value of these foods, the nutritional value even, right?
Yeah. Like I remember one client, she said, "Oh my God, I had a sandwich on a croissant." Like she was baffled. She's like, "I can have a sandwich on a croissant. Like I can do that. It's fine. It's a little bit higher. I mean, 2 pieces of bread most usually is about 200 calories or so, and a croissant maybe 300 something. Oh well." But she was shocked because on Weight Watchers, that was just not possible, right? If you're trying to make things work. And so it created that, it just didn't inform you, like educate you in the same as, say, like, your calorie tracking, or you're really learning about food. And so, yes, I did lose the weight initially. But then I started working out with Andrew, and I got more immersed in the nutrition part. And so for a while, I still did that. And I also, though, cross-referenced it on like a tracking app, like MyFitnessPal or whatever. And I did that for a little while, because obviously I was still afraid that I was going to gain weight, right? Like I hadn't yet resolved that, or and so then eventually, like, I just dropped it, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is not going to work, right? Like now I'm getting it. Now I know, okay, wow, I can include these things, obviously in moderation, but like, fuck, if I want a donut or a banana, like if I want a donut that day, I'm going to have a donut. Right? Like I didn't feel bad about it. There was no guilt around it. Whereas previously it was more of a guilt thing. Like I shouldn't eat that. And it reinforced that whole good, bad food mentality, when we shouldn't really, there shouldn't be that, right? There shouldn't be any morality around food. Like that's bad, that's good. It's just what's more nutritious and what's going to keep you full longer, and those kinds of things. So
right, and what's supporting your goals and your lifestyle and your current feelings and things like that of the day, right? I think it's not a stretch to say that like we shouldn't be eating donuts every single day, and you shouldn't base your diet around how can I have so many donuts. But you could do that, right? But
I mean,
it's just for nutritional value, right?
Yeah, and I use the example of a donut.
That, but yes,
no, but I use the example of a donut. I don't know if it's 10 points, 8 points, whatever. But even a Big Mac, like it could be a Big Mac, like 12 points for a Big Mac, or 15 points. I don't know, but regardless, just saying that those types of foods are just way higher in points, and it just throws off there's just a negative relationship, right? You're not learning anything, so.
Right. It's like you're tracking something, so just track it accurately rather than tracking it based on a thing that's not actually accurately reflective of the impact that it has on your weight loss. Like if we're going to track points, you might as well just track calories. It's the real thing.
Yeah.
It's the same amount of work anyways.
Yeah. And why have, like, we're trying to break free of these, even like what we tell ourselves and how we talk to ourselves, like I can versus I can't, right? Like I can't have that. Well, we need, like, my opinion, like there shouldn't be rules around food, just guidelines, right? What works better, or what's more nutritious. And like the 80-20 approach is what I know I use, and most coaches apply. So yeah, going from that, like good foods, bad foods, I can't, I shouldn't, any of those things, we want to break free from that type of thinking. So yeah.
So what was your sort of aha moment that you referenced earlier? What was like the time where it switched? Was it even pre kind of like the working out with Andrew and somewhere before the last stint of Weight Watchers type of thing, or was it after that?
I mean, my aha moment to change was really just like, it was, described this before, it was like a dimmer switch, right? Like I knew I needed to change. And then at one point I realized I could just switch it to on. Like, but I was over the years, you're thinking about it, you want to do it, you try to do it, hence the yo-yo dieting. But I really just woke up, and it was, this is the day, like I have to do this, enough. And there was tons of things leading up to it. I'd had my second kid, and I was at my heaviest postpartum. And, I started, just to make this clear, like, I want people to know, like, I'm turning 44 next month. I started when I was just shy of turning 41. So I had postpartum, a newborn, obviously, like, issues with food, bad relationship with food. I have hypothyroid. I was the heaviest I had ever been. My knees were hurting. I had joint pain, alcohol, right? Like turning to alcohol to cope. And so lots of things leading up to it. I was just at like the worst. And I woke up like, okay, this is it. I got to do this. I'm ready to face everything. I'm ready to deal with all the shit that I've been afraid of, the fear, everything. And so I did. So I started. And then when I started with Andrew and we were training, now, like, I just started with food initially. So it was tracking quantity, not quality. I didn't pay attention to quality because I think a lot of people, from my experience, is very overwhelming. Like we spoke about this a bit before, but everything you see on social media, and again, I don't know if it's just because my page is curated to that because I follow a lot of coaches we do. So we see all the same shit. But I think even just Gen Pop, if they're reading, just do these 4 or 5 things, stress management, get your sleep in, make sure you're moving, get your 8 to 10,000 steps or whatever, strength train 4 days a week, walk, all of that. That's a lot. So I know when I started, I was like, first of all, I have limitations. Like I'm really heavy. Like it's hard to go for a walk. And so I just focused on the nutrition part of it and tracking. So I got good at tracking. And once I lost about 50 pounds, I was like, okay, well, I can walk more. So I really did go from 3,000 steps, like just in my house. And that's not actually taking steps. That's just doing, taking care of kids and doing your usual stuff around the house. To going outside, going for walks on my own, deciding like I need that time for myself, not with anyone else. Sometimes it would be with the kids, but I got up to, I think, like 6,000 steps. Then I decided, okay, I think I want to strength train. And so reached out to him. And I still wasn't ready. I waited a couple months and started in that September. And then I started strength training. And then one day, so this is the aha moment. One day I was driving to Andrew's house to train. And I was like, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. Like 3 days a week, 2 days a week on my own. My kid's not sleeping. I hated working out with them because I was constantly interrupted between nap schedules and all of that. And I felt very overwhelmed because now I'm tracking and I'm doing strength training and I'm getting my walking in and I'm, my water, sleep still a no-go because of kids. And something just hit me. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to just work within the parameters of my life. Like I'm going to do what I'm capable of and what I can do right now. And that's it. This is the season of my life. I don't care. So that day I went and talked to him. He's like, yeah, for sure. Like you can work out once or twice a week, like just do what works for you. Right. And so maybe it's a little bit of like, we all feel we're asked like asking for permission. Right. But after that really changed things for me. And I really did just start doing things that worked for me. And also recognizing though the importance of all of these things, but there's going to be times in our life where we can only do some. There's going to be times where I can do all of them. And there's going to be times where maybe it's just one thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to, for the audience and just for people in general to know it's okay. And that's where a lot of like, compassion comes into play for me. And not to say that I coddle my clients or anything like that. No, I mean, I think when they need a little bit of tough love, it's there, right? And so just really, because I think a lot of women and maybe men too struggle with this, is that negative self-talk and how you perceive yourself and the things that you say and that shit that runs in your mind. And so one of the key things was just being kinder to myself and giving myself more grace. not as, and the caveat being like, not an excuse not to do the thing that I know I need to do. So if I'm saying, oh, I don't have time to work out today, like it should be that I really don't have time to work out
Hmm.
today, not just because I don't want to, right? So that goes a long way, is just being kinder to yourself. And I think a lot of us struggle with that, and we're really hard on ourselves and the words that we use and how we look at ourselves in the mirror and all of those things. So yeah,
It
long
definitely
story,
adds
not
up.
short.
No,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. That's why we have podcasts.
Yeah.
Um, it definitely adds up, and the best way that I can kind of summarize that is it's almost like the difference between being nice and being good to yourself.
Hmm.
Like it's nice to be nice, but if you're just too nice to yourself all the time, you will find reasons to like, oh, I had a hard day. I don't want to walk. I don't want to go to the gym. I'll have a milkshake instead of water. I'll just get McDonald's. Like you will
Right.
find reasons to give yourself all of the stuff that will make you feel good in the moment, and then you'll likely regret after and won't make you feel good long term. Right. But
Yep.
being
Yep.
good to yourself will help you to recognize like, okay, do I actually have not enough time today, or am I just making excuses? Maybe I don't have time to get an hour workout in today, but can I get 20 minutes in? Can I go for a walk for 20 minutes? Can I do some push-ups at home? Can I do some, whatever? Can I just do something just to get something in, and that will make me feel better? If yes, then great. And if no, for sure there's going to be times where you don't you legitimately don't have time or can't get some good food or something like that. But that can't be happening all the time. If that's all of the
No.
time, then there's something else that's going on, and you have to address whatever that thing is that's preventing you from ever having any time at all to exercise, as one example of things, right?
Yeah, and like, when we talk about, I know the argument, debate, whatever you want to call it, but calories in, calories out, of course it comes down to that, right? Like
Yeah.
we know that. But it's so much more than that, so much more. And, you know, it's not all about food. Like it was never about food for me. Right. So, once, and going back to what you said, like, unless you go through the process and take that time also to build the habits along with dealing with like the emotional eating and, finding ways to, different ways to cope with that as well. As you're doing that, you're putting in the time, you're putting in the reps, but you're also shifting your identity, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you talk about this. This is a huge part of the process. And in order for it to become a part of who you are, it has to start with you doing it consistently, right? What you do most of the time matters versus
Right.
what you do some of the time, but also like you were saying, be what can you do, like what's good for you, and not, and unless you do that consistently over time and work on the other issues as well that may prevent you, quote unquote, from doing those things, then shifting that identity becomes difficult as well, right? And so now for me it's who I am. Like as far as like I like to move. I didn't get from, so I posted something in my story just yesterday of my step count. Like my step count now has been really high. It's like between 15 and 20,000 every day. How do I get that? Intention, right? Like I have to be very intentional about it. Do I have to do it? No, I mean, usually 12,000 is my non-negotiable. I can stop it there, but I want to move. So when I'm getting on calls or finding ways in my life to make that work, I'm trying to do that now. So I'm being intentional about it, right? But if it wasn't a part of me where I didn't value it as something important to me for my health, my future, then I wouldn't be making those choices each and every time, to get that movement in. But it starts with the identity shift, right?
That's the key right there, is that you value it. And this is something that I've been
Yeah.
trying to get across for a long time as well, is that we have to start looking at these things, getting your steps in, tracking your food, tracking your water, getting your workouts in, whatever the stuff is. You have to start looking at it as a positive thing. It's not a punishment to yourself to walk 10,000 steps a day. It's making you feel better, making you healthier, maybe helping you lose a little bit of weight, maybe helping your mobility, helping your health, helping you live a longer life, helping you be there for your kids and your grandkids. It's doing so many more positive things rather than, oh my God, I don't have 20 minutes to go outside for a walk today. Geez, this whole fitness thing kind of sucks. Like, that's the mindset that has to shift, is that all of these things are positive implications on your life. They're not punishment. It's not a punishment to
No.
exercise and go to the gym and eat healthy foods. It has to become a positive frame of mind. Otherwise, you will never have that switch. You'll never have that switch and make that identity change of like, this is just what I do. You'll forever be stuck in that, like, oh damn, gotta go to the gym today, instead of like, I get to go to the gym. All of the, and sorry, I'm getting excited here, but like all of the people who are like the fit people who you look up to, who, oh, it looks easy for them. It's so easy for Dal to get 15,000 steps a day. It's so easy for Daniel to go to the gym every day. It's so easy for so-and-so to do whatever thing that they do that seems so admirable. It's only easy because it's just part of who we are. Like, it's not I don't have to drag my ass to the gym every single day. There's some days, like today, I didn't really feel like, I'm not feeling so hot today, I didn't sleep good, whatever. But like, I don't have to drag my ass to the gym every single day. I enjoy doing it. And so maybe I'm lucky at that. And I definitely acknowledge that we're definitely lucky in some ways, but not all of us, and not for all of the things. There are parts of fitness and stuff that I don't like, and health and nutrition and whatever. And same for all of us. And we weren't all born like this. Many of us went through large transformations like yourself, Dal. And so you adopt these habits, and you learn these habits, and you teach yourself these habits, and you shift that positive mindset to say, hey, I do this because it makes me feel better and makes my life better, not because I'm trying to punish myself.
Yeah. And initially it might start that way. Like and that's okay. Right. And I guess it's like the person that you envision, if you can just start doing those things of what that person would do today, whether or not you like it, whether or not you enjoy it, who cares? Just start, because that's the first step, right? And then to continue to do those things, it will become a part of who you are, but you have to start, and you have to keep doing it for some time before you get there. And don't get me wrong, this is another thing. Like, when I look at the fitness community and, fellow coaches and colleagues, I'm like, shit, fuck, I want to be like that. Like, I want that physique. But I also recognize that that's not my life. Like, first of all, I can't, my season of life, I can't put in that work, that time, to get there. I also know what it takes. And I just don't have that right now. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I do want to one day. But for like Gen Pop, like, understand also that, and I see it now too, because this is my job now. And so I have a level of standard that I have to uphold. Right. And so there's a lot of fitness influencers and whatnot, like, maybe inside they hate it, but they have to do it because of their job. So, right. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that I love strength training. I don't. Like, some days it's a drag, and it still continues to be like, I like it. I know what it provides me. I know the value, again, what I'm getting out of it. And so I do it, but that's not to say that I don't drag myself downstairs to a full gym that I have in my house, and that I don't struggle. I do. A part of me also has a trainer still, because I want the accountability. And sometimes that's what we need, right? Initially, again, so you might not enjoy it in the beginning. Maybe it's the accountability piece. And I think that that gap between, where you are and getting where you want to be can be filled with just, having that coach, that accountability, that support, that network that's necessary, right? Because it was really, really important for me and crucial in my journey. And so yeah, I mean, that's not to say that there isn't an incentive, a little bit of a more motivation for us, some of us who do work in the industry itself as well, right? So,
Of course.
Yeah.
The accountability piece is a huge one, because we have so much information now, too much information, arguably. You can look up anything, AI, ChatGPT, Grok, whatever. Like, you can have access to all the information, and sometimes it can be too overwhelming, and we lack the ability to synthesize all of that information and understand how to apply it to ourselves. And then one step further than that is, well, how do I now actually go out and execute this and do it again and again and again and again? Because that's the thing that is gonna help, right? There's not one secret rule.
Right.
Otherwise, we would all just follow that thing, and we would all not have these problems. The accountability piece is gigantic. What are some other ways, I guess, having a trainer and being part of the industry definitely helps, but that you found in like early on that you were able to hold yourself accountable to, or things that where you weren't being held accountable that weren't working for you?
You know, a lot of it just comes from within. We can touch on this a bit because maybe you've talked about it and you have your views and other people have their views. But it's like this whole, your kids should be just motivation, right? The internal versus external, whatever. And I did it for years. Like, again, I tried doing it for my kids. I wanted better for them. I didn't want to model that life. And I didn't realize until I was on the other side of it, how crucial and important it was for me to change my lifestyle, and how much of, like how we model, they look up to us and they absorb everything that we do. I see that now. I see it clearly now. And it is one of my driving, forces, my motivation, accountability, call it, right? Like I'm accountable to them as well. But initially it wasn't. And the reason being was because I had to choose to do it for myself. And a large part of that choosing to do it for myself was also dealing with, again, going back to like my own inner struggles and, why I didn't want to, whatever those reasons. And so, yeah, so I guess it wasn't initially, but that for me now, that is definitely like, I know I'm accountable to my kids as well. And I want the best for them. And I don't want them to miss out on life like I did. I don't want to be a bystander in their lives as well, like I was for so many years. And just from personal experience, like I'll tell you, you can like, I can read things, I can see things like, oh, you should do this, your kids are going to miss out, or this and that. Like I knew all of that, but no amount of losing weight was going to solve that unless I, fixed myself, right? Not fixed is a bad word, like more like just healed myself. And so you ask, like, of course, and having my coach as some accountability, but I think because I've been in this for so long now, like 3 years going, again, this is a journey. I know some people don't like that word, but it's a lifelong one. It's not going to stop. I can't stop doing the things that I've done to get to where I am today. But that internal motivation now is just stronger, and I place more value on it. And so even on the days that I don't feel like it, I can tap into that.
Everyone arrives at something like that, and very often it's kids for those who have kids. But if it's not someone who doesn't have kids yet or whatever, it's some other thing in their life that the whole fitness thing is making much better. And my best guess as to like the psychological reason as to why this is, like very many people start, and there's nothing wrong with this, because I just want to lose weight because I want to look better. I don't like the way I look. I want to look better, purely aesthetic reason, right? Many people do that. It's great, but it's often and almost all the time like not strong enough to keep going, because eventually if you do all the things right, you get to your goal weight or your goal physique or your whatever, and you're like, well, okay, then what? Like, what do you do? You have nothing to chase. I guess you can, try to chase, well, I need to maintain this. But that's not really like, it's just not a strong enough motivator to get up and drag your butt to the gym and eat clean foods and enough, foods, and fuel yourself properly and go to sleep on time. It's just not enough motivation to do all the things that's required to maintain that. And then we start to realize and start to think about, well, how has this impacted my life in other ways outside of just the way that I look? My relationship with my kids is better. I'm there for them. I'm going to live longer. I'm performing better at work. I'm any number of other things that people experience improving their life through fitness. And the sooner you can start to like pay attention to those things and get that like that deep rooted motivation, that's also a big part of how this starts to become like who you are and what you do. Because you're right that fitness is it's a life sentence, fortunately or unfortunately. Like things are gonna happen to you, and so you might as well make them good rather than just letting them happen and make them negatively that you're always trying to fix. Again, that word fix, right?
Yeah, fix. I know, right? Like, and we're just used to saying that, and obviously, that's not what we mean. Because we're not broken. We don't need to be fixed. I think most of us just need to be healed, or do some healing. But going back to, what you were saying there. Shoot, I think I lost my train of thought there. Oh well.
That's okay.
The deeper why. It was the deeper why, right? Like, aesthetics. Don't get me wrong. Aesthetics was part of my initial reason. It always has been, always will be. Of course. I mean, of course you want to look good, or
anyone who says feel good. Anyone who says it isn't, I think, is lying.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, who doesn't want to feel good? It's not the primary thing,
but it's part of it.
No, it is. And it will continue to be, because now my goals have evolved and I want to, get that physique, that toned physique, but I also know what it's going to take. And again, that's still an aesthetics goal. And it is also obviously more muscle, more strength. I mean, huge part of it, right? But aesthetics is always going to be tied into it somehow. And that's okay. But now I have a deeper why. So that's the most important part of it. Because that's what keeps you going.
Exactly. It's a thing that'll keep you going when those times are tough. Plus it just gives you something fun to continue to chase and continue to grow towards, which is part of it as well, right? It's hard to do something when you're chasing nothing. It's like, I'm just doing this for the sake of doing it rather than I'm doing this for a purpose. It's much more powerful to be able to do that for a purpose. One thing I did want to go back to is this concept of not dropping the ball completely, where, you have your steps, you have your nutrition, you have your training, you have your sleep, you have your water, you have your, pick 5 or 7 or 10 things. And you're not going to be perfect at all of them always. And some of them you're going to like, some of them are going to be easier for you than others. And that's going to be different for each person, but you want to try not to drop them all at the same time, right? You want to keep, if you think about spinning plates type of thing, right? You want to keep one of them spinning rather than dropping them all. Was that a difficult thing for you to sort of come around to, that like, hey, it's okay for me to not get my steps in today. I still did good with my food, or whatever the things were for you?
Yeah, I mean, initially it was, like I said, there was a lot more like, oh, I have to do it all. But then again, that's kind of why I struggled. And I think most people struggle with, is part of it is that all or nothing mindset, right? If I can't do it all, then what's the point? Or, I messed up on the weekend, so throw in the towel or fuck it. So I think that was a huge shift for me, like a mindset shift for me, was that it's okay. Like, you can, if all you do is nutrition, then that's okay too. If you just do a couple of things, that's fine too. But that's hard. It's a difficult one to break free from, because we're so conditioned to believe that we have to do all of these things to make progress, or, let's just talk weight loss. Like, you're not going to lose weight if, one day out of the week you splurged. And with time, though, as I accepted that, I experienced it in real time, that it was okay. Like consistency, right? Like the whole 80% of the time, 90% of the time. So experiencing it and going through it really helped me. But that also means you have to stick with it for more than 2 months. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what I tell my clients and stuff. Like, let's just stick with it. Let's just keep working on it. But another thing is, I also understand that reading something, seeing something, I can read that 1,000 times. I might not believe you. I know my clients, like, I can't convince my clients. Hell, I know you can't convince anyone. And it's not until they experience it themselves and go through it that they, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is like that. Wow, I'm seeing that. But again, that takes shifting your mindset from the onset of it, when you choose to take that step, is to believe that, like, I'm doing this differently this time, right? And a big part of that, I mean, we can go into this, but I feel like for me was just dropping that timeline, right? Like, this has to happen within this time frame, because the pressure that places,
Mm.
again, in the past, it was always, I have a special event, a wedding, a vacation, and now there's a timeline attached to that. And so now you get caught up in the extremes, or, more restriction than necessary. Well, because at the end of the day, a calorie deficit, you're still restricting, right? Inherently. But it's next level. And so just dropping that timeline really helped in that whole aspect of things. So
That's an interesting way of framing it. And I think it really plays into the whole like identity shift part of it. If you're only going to commit to doing a diet or a thing for 2 weeks or 2 months rather, that's not the rest of your life. like this is, again, it's a life sentence, right? So you commit to like, hey, I'm going to do this for forever. The specifics of what I do might change and evolve over time, but this is what I do now, rather than, hey, I'm doing an 8-week diet or an 8-week challenge of, not eating cake or whatever it is. And then, you realize like, well, what do I do after that? Like, I'm just going to go back to eating cake and I didn't learn anything. So, maybe it helped me look better for the wedding or for the vacation, but then after that, then I'm just right back to where I was before, and maybe, and then some extra.
Right.
So it doesn't give you any tools, but it really, like, expanding the timeline allows you to even on the thing where you said about splurging and realizing that, hey, this didn't like derail all my progress. I didn't lose all my progress. If you only give yourself 2 weeks to try something and then you do have a splurge, you might not lose weight over 2 weeks because, like, the scale spikes up, whatever. But give yourself 2 months, 3 months, 2 years, you have a splurge and you realize like, oh yeah, if I just keep tracking and I get back on track to my normal stuff, like it had like a little bit of a blip, but it didn't actually, like, I didn't gain 15 pounds because I had 2 cookies. I didn't derail all my progress. I didn't, nothing really happened. In the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter that much. Now, you can't do it every single day, but like one-off occasions, it's just not going to matter that much. But you'll never realize that unless you give yourself enough time.
Yeah, and again, like you just said as well, you read that, reasons for weight fluctuation. Yeah, okay, eating too many carbs, eating late at night, having too much sodium the night before than you do normally, whatever. It's going to cause fluctuations on the scale. Okay, I can read that, but again, unless you actually go through that and experience it for a long enough period where you see that pattern, how do you build that confidence even for yourself, right? That's where the shifts start happening as well. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, I know I even say like this, there's progress beyond the scale, right? Like, obviously, but the scale does matter too. It does.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Like, I'm not going to lie, like, having lost all this weight. And even if I'm going into now when I go into a fat loss phase, like, yes, the scale matters as well a little bit. Now it's a bit different, right? But initially, for sure. But when you go through the process, is what I'm saying is you give it at least a couple of months of consistency, and you will see what you're reading. You will see what someone else is saying and actually experience it for yourself. And that's when the light bulb kind of goes on. You're like, yeah, sweet. Like, oh yeah, I see it now, Dal. I see it. I can see I can see it. Everything's trending downwards. And yes, there's ups and downs. But I get it now. Now I understand, or I'm weighing myself every day for a reason. It's data. It's to see, oh yeah, I had that, I don't know, I'll just say Chinese takeout because there's probably a lot of salt in that. I had Chinese takeout yesterday, and that's why. So, again, going back to timelines and going through the process, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, no escaping that whole thing. But
No.
but no, you're totally right. You have to commit to the process for enough amount of time to actually let it happen, and importantly, to figure out the nuances of these things.
Yeah.
We see this all the time. We talked about it, before we hit record a little bit of like, they're just blanket statements that you'll see of stuff online. Do things this, always do this, never do this. And it's like, there's always more to it. And the people who post it know it. And like, I'm certainly guilty of posting some things like that. And not, I don't think it's so egregious, but I posted a thing about not using the squat pad in the bar and people lost their minds, and like,
Oh,
that's not the like, that was unbelievable. But like, definitely don't do that. There's no need for that. But there's like diet things, like never have cake, never have a
yeah.
blended banana. Like that's not real.
Oh,
And so
I
you
know.
have to but you have to go through the process of trying these things. And like, I think we also need to forget about like science this, science that a little bit. Like, just try stuff. Have a blended banana and see what happens. Oh, you didn't gain 37 pounds overnight? Okay, great. Then you can keep doing that. Like the whole like fuck around and find out thing is like, it's very real. Like there's all this nutrition stuff. It's not rocket science. You can try things, but you have to give it enough time and do it with enough conviction so that you can actually try it, see it through, and then figure out what works for you. And
Yes.
and that's how you figure out how to apply these blanket statements. And what your favorite fitness influencer does their what I eat in a day video, like that's great, and it might give you some recipe ideas maybe, or some motivation, or whatever it gives to you. But then you can go and try and say, oh, when I do that, I feel good, it works for me, it supports my goals, or it doesn't, and then you can just discard it. And it doesn't make it bad, it just makes it not the right thing for you at that time. But that's
Yeah,
hard.
and it's like, I think this is such an important point and something I try to emphasize, and really maybe you see it in my content as well. One, working within the parameters of your life, but really just doing what works for you. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, you don't have to eat in a deficit and you'll lose weight. No, you still have to. Let's just go back to that. But it just means like really accepting that and believing that, and knowing that it can work. Like we don't have to do all of these things. Going back, circling back, like, yeah, some things are ideal, some things are optimal, but what's optimal is defined. For me, it's like, you define what's optimal and ideal for you, right? Because that's what I did for myself, and what works for me may not work for you, because your life looks completely different, right? I talked about on my stories the other day, like, oh, 4 workouts a week or 2 or 3 workouts a week, it's only an hour. Well, it's not for me, because sometimes my workouts, even though I'm downstairs, I have to clean a kid's butt, or I have to break a fight, or I have to take a break for some reason, right? And that 1 hour can mean 2 hours, and sometimes that's just not. Uh, it just doesn't work for me, right? Like, and when I go train, like, that's 2+ hours out of my day, right? I mean, yeah, it's once a week. Can I find that time? Not necessarily. Like, for example, if I the advice, wake up early, like wake up early before your kids. Okay, you do that. I can't do that. Like, I have my young one, like, co-sleeps, and he's at that stage where he senses me still. So if I get up at 5 in the morning, guess what? He's getting up at 5 in the morning. No, thank you. I'll just sleep. Can I work out at night? No, I don't want to, because now I'm dead tired. I've, been busy all day, and that also doesn't work for me. But can I find some time? Yeah. Okay. Then I have to find another time in the day. Maybe that just means I work out twice a week, which is what I'm doing now. That's okay. Right. I'm still doing it.
Right.
It's okay. Like 1-2 workouts a week, I'm still doing it. Or even if my steps are 8,000, that's fine too. I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really like, if I'm going to really emphasize any point, is, just be okay with that. It's okay. We don't have to do all things, and we don't have to do all things perfectly. So,
was there ever a point in your journey where you thought that you couldn't do it, or that everyone else had something that you didn't have, or none of these things work for you, or I'm different somehow and none of these people understand, none of these programs understand? Did you ever go through that?
yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome, I think, even just with the work that, we do, right? For me, specifically, but in terms of, self-limiting beliefs, for sure. I think I had a lot, even with training. But learn to reframe that and not say, I can't do it, versus, so even, just like training, walking, all of these things, instead of saying I can't, like it just doesn't work for me right now, and I'm going to do
Hmm.
what I can. So when it comes to training, or even eating certain foods, I think there was a while for the longest time, for years, I hated oatmeal. I hated the texture, all of it. I'm like, I can't, I'm not an oatmeal person. I'm like, okay, take your own advice, reframe. So instead of saying, I can't, I'm not an oatmeal type of person, I said, okay, here, what can I do? How can I make this, try it in a way that works for me? And so I experimented, and voila, one day I was like, wow, this is actually really good. This is how I can actually eat this. And so it is really working through those self-limiting beliefs, and just working on how we phrase things in our own head. So like you said in the beginning, I get to, right? It's hard. It's not easy.
For sure, for sure. I think the thing there is, I think I hear this a lot. I'm sure you hear this a lot. Is like this whole concept of, well, that doesn't work for me, or I can't do that, or I can't, I can't get in shape or lose weight because of XYZ thing in my life,
Yeah.
be it something physiological or physical, or like, I don't know, some structural thing in their life or their culture, or like,
Yeah.
I will get this a lot, which is always ironic. Like, I'm Italian. You don't understand what it's
Yeah.
like. I'm like, hold on a second. I'm also Italian, and the other side of my family is Greek. And just to like subtle flex a little bit here, like routinely in the top cuisines in the world every single year voted is Italian and Greek, and they just flip flop one and two. And so if there's anyone who doesn't get it, it's me. And that's
Yeah.
not an excuse. Like, don't use your culture as an
Yeah.
excuse, food wise, as an excuse as to like why you can't lose weight. Like, you can't go around saying like, oh, there are no Italian, Greek, Indian, Chinese,
Yeah.
Mexican, whatever culture whatever in the world that are in shape. Of course there are. Like, that's not the reason. It's just an excuse. And so until you learn how to work within those parameters and work around that, then you'll just use that as an excuse. And now that's like a, maybe a lesser one than, oh, there's something wrong with me and I can't do it.
Right.
The chances that
Actually,
you're
sorry.
the
Yeah,
only,
go ahead.
just to finish this thought, like the
Yeah.
chances, if we just think about, and this is how my brain works, like logical probability. Is it true? Which one of the two is more true here? Either you have something different about you that is unique to every single
Yes.
other of the 8 billion people in the world that the laws of thermodynamics don't apply to you,
Yeah.
or you're wrong. It's one of those two. Chances are
Right.
you're wrong. And the sooner you can accept that, the sooner you can start taking positive steps towards changing the things that you want to change.
Yeah, no, that's well said. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm Indian, right? So Indian food, and that's one thing, you know, I talk about as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I lost the weight eating Indian food. And to be fair, I mean, yeah, the Indian community, there is a lot of obesity, heart disease, like diabetes and stuff. Why? Because the food that we're consuming, one, now you're consuming it, like ordering it in takeout, and you're not making it at home. But and so it's really fattening. And two, it's not the food itself, it's how you're preparing it, even at home. And so I prepare curry chicken, butter chicken, I eat like naan, roti, rice, all of that, and I was successful. Why? Because I learned how to prepare the food. I learned that you can't just dump oil in your food, because oil is high in calories. And we don't realize that. And just educating, just learning about that. People will always say, oh, well, I'm just going to cut this out. I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to cut the carbs, so the roti or the naan. It's like, no, you don't have to cut that out. Just eat a little bit less of it and learn how to prepare it. That's it. Really, that's how. But even that is a huge shift. It's a
Mm-hmm.
huge shift in how you are so used to making food a certain way, and now to. So with one client, when she came to me, she's like, I really want to learn how to, incorporate Indian food, because everything I've tried in the past, it was more of a Western based diet. And so of course that's not going to stick, because that's not what you eat normally. That's not what you
Mm-hmm.
grew up. That doesn't fit the parameters of your life. And so, we talked a lot about, okay, tell me, how do you make your food? Like, what are you using? How much oil are you using? And we started off with just using half the oil, just that alone. and then reduced it even more because they realized, oh, okay, it's not so bad. Like, it doesn't taste much different. We actually don't need that. That's just how you were taught to cook. That doesn't
Right.
mean you can't change, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Like that
No,
aspect of it
totally
is
agree.
huge.
There's ways to get around it, right? And as you learn about calories and portion control and just eating habits, then you learn, okay, how I can eat these things and they still have like immense nutritional value, immense traditional value, immense like uh, cultural value to you
Cultural.
and the way that your life is, and you can still eat it and still lose weight and still be healthy. Like there's nothing wrong with those things. It's just the amount that you eat it. If you eat 3 packs of pasta a day, like it's probably
Yeah.
you probably don't need that many carbs, but
Yeah.
like it doesn't mean that a little bit of it can't fit, or rice, or whatever the food is. It doesn't matter. You just got to learn how to prepare it and make it fit into your life. But that's just a really important point that I wanted to highlight, because I know that you talk about that as well. That's like,
Yeah.
it's not your cultural food is not the culprit here. Like that's not the thing to blame. And if you continue to blame that, then like, okay, then change your culture. Well, you can't do that. Well, maybe you should try changing yourself, right? Again, back to this, like, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change.
Yeah. And maybe it is the food that you're eating. Maybe it is your cultural food, because it's just like you said, like how you're preparing it, or if you're ordering it out, maybe it is, and you just don't understand the why behind it. And that's where kind of context, nuance, and learning all of this comes in. But again, circling back, you need to put in the time, learn those skills, and really, go through the process and figure it out, right?
Correct.
So,
and objectively,
yeah.
and a shout out to both of us, the fastest way to shortcut that is to work with someone who's been there, done that, and has gone through the mistakes to tell you, hey, avoid all of these mistakes because I understand you and what you're going through, and try these 3 things. And then you can build from there, and it'll just save you a ton of time and headaches and money, frankly, in the long run, right?
Yes. I've wasted thousands, like tens of thousands of dollars on programs, equipment, DVDs. Oh my God.
At least you didn't say cassette tapes. That's
that's going back to the 90s. We did have those too, but yeah, no, like DVDs and just like all of this stuff that you accumulate, thinking that it's going to help, but it didn't, right? Like you can save yourself so much money and time really by just getting some help and support from, like you said, someone who's been there, or someone who knows what they're talking about, and no black and white or dichotomous thinking, right? Like there's no black and white. It's like we've been saying throughout this whole podcast, like what works for you kind of deal. So yeah.
Agreed. On that note, Dal, where can people get in contact with you? We'll put that in the show notes as well. We'll start to wrap this up.
Well, all roads lead to Instagram for me, so that's the best place to reach me. I've tried Facebook, but I suck. And yes, at my age, you think that I'd be good at it, but I just never got into Facebook. So I'm trying to learn it, but no, definitely Instagram. Yeah, I'm free at any time for DMs. I always reach out and
what's your
right?
handle? Nutrition Coaching by Dal?
Yeah. So original.
No, it's good. It's better than just your name.
Yeah.
Dal, is there anything that you think that we missed that you want to get off your chest or talk about today?
Honestly, I think we got through a lot of different things, a lot of important things. So no, I think I'm good.
Good. Very good. Well, thank you very much for coming on and taking the time. I know it's not easy to carve out the time and get some alone time to do this. So I appreciate it. And thank you for being open and vulnerable and, with sharing your story. Cause I know that's not always easy either. And people don't, like I've said this a number of times, but like people listening, like it's harder than you think it is to sit on camera recording and talk about things that are like personal and deep and very meaningful to your life. So Dal, I thank you very like personally from myself and so does everyone else here. And
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Awesome.
Of course. Any last words you want to leave the people with here in closing?
Just work within the parameters of your life. That's all.
I love it. Very good. Very good. Well, Dal, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Make sure you're following Dal at Nutrition Coaching by Dal on Instagram. I'll put the links in the show notes. Like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Share with your friends who need to hear it. That always helps. Leave a 5-star review on iTunes and on Spotify. That's that. Thank you very much. Go outside. Be a good person. See you next time.